What's good, everybody? You already know who it is and what it is. And if you don't, it's the one and only one, Fleeboy Jetson. And you're watching Voice of the Heroes Uncaped. And today we have a huge guest in the building. But before we talk about a legend in the making, let me introduce my co-host for the evening. And we got my guy, Blue Jack and Galactus Photog. How y'all doing today, man?
Hey, I'm feeling good, bro. My
Yeah,
soccer team won. Cole Palmer got a hat trick, so I'm on top of the moon right now. I'm good.
same man. You know what I'm saying? It's Saturday, so I did go get me a fresh cut. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
I went to go donate some blood. Y'all donate blood. I mean, they need it out there.
Definitely. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Now, let's introduce the man of the hour. He is a legend in the making. Like I said, he has written for multiple fan favorite characters and franchises from Marvel, DC, and beyond. I'm talking about characters like Batman, the Justice League, Doctor Who, Cowboy Bebop, Assassin's Creed, Dark Souls, Magic the Gathering, and he is currently writing Shredder and Nightwing. Let's welcome Dan Waters to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks very much for having me. It's a very kind intro.
Well, you deserve it, man. You've been putting in the work. You are definitely one of the goats in the industry right now. Galactus, let's get to it, man.
So, Dan, before we kind of go into the interview questions regarding the books that you've made, we're more interested in finding out who you are. So, on a personal note, we want a little bit of background about about yourself as well as what got you into writing, and that can kind of feed into what comes next regarding our questions.
Um, sure. I mean, yeah, I grew up in London. I always liked, sort of stories more than anything else in terms of both. I read avidly as a kid, and anything I could get my hands on, if it was a comic or a book or watch too much TV or any of that. I just liked stories. Um, And then I think sort of I would fall in and out of writing as a sort of hobby and started taking it seriously when I was sort of round about starting college. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna think about what I really want to do. It's probably that in some format. And I was kind of lucky that by the by the time I was like leaving, you know, university, I was kind of had a bit of a foothold in comics already. So I just sort of pursued that. And here we are, 10 years later, Rod.
And what a hell of a
10
run.
years, a
Yeah,
decade in
greatness.
writing. That's
Greatness.
amazing.
Now, let me
Yeah,
ask you,
longer at this point, close to 15.
let me ask you,
15.
right? Was Limbo your first actual story, or did you write something before Limbo that you wanted to, put out there?
Yeah, I know I definitely wrote stuff before that. I would I would write short pieces of prose and sort of things for myself. I did write a sort of, I think, I guess, 5 or 6 issue mini series without an artist, but trying to sort of stick to a sort of 22 page, as a kind of way of like figuring out how it works and how much space you have to do X, Y, or Z. And to be honest, I think it took me years longer than that to actually figure out how things work. But it was at least, it was sort of putting in the work and showing willing and sort of finishing a longer form story. And honestly, I was already sort of friends with Casper Wingard, who drew Limbo, um, while I was doing that. And I think him seeing me do that, seeing me sort of put this book together with no sort of, or put this script together without any sort of hope of it actually being produced, was sort of one of the things where he could look at me and go, all right, this kid actually wants to do this properly and is willing to put the work in.
And let
That's
me ask you, right? Piggyback off that. When writing a story, what usually comes first? Is it the theme, the characters, or the vibe? And how much outlining do you do before writing a script?
I mean that first question is sort of it's a little bit of a variation of like where do your ideas come from, which is always the sort of scary question. But I think it can be kind of any of the above. Theme first is a bad way to write, I think, because it leads you to uh sort of top down storytelling, which I don't like. Um, at least not for me. Um, but I do think it can be kind of any of those other things. It's generally finding something that I'm interested in writing about as a sort of idea and how that affects people. So it's a little chicken and the egg between sort of character and idea. Um, sorry, what was it was the second part to your question when the
How much
um
outlining do you do
oh
before
yeah.
scripting?
Yeah, so um I'm quite a fastidious outliner at this point. I used to be kind of anti it. I used to sort of be like, well, if the story's not uh, you know, organic and allowed to sort of flow naturally, then it doesn't feel real. Uh, and like over the years, I've definitely learned that story is a craft, and it's something
Hmm.
that the more sort of care and the further ahead what's happening, generally speaking, the better, and you're able to sort of forge something that feels more satisfying. Um, not to say that it won't still throw curveballs at you. I guess that's kind of it. Is like story is going to kind of it is kind of like a wild thing you're trying to tether. So as much as that you can do, as much you can do towards that before you sort of put pen to paper and everything sort of blows up in your face, the better.
And Mr. Waters, man, appreciate you for being here once again. I'm a huge fan. I'm a DC
Thank
guy.
you.
They'll tell you I'm heavily DC. I'm reading dang near all your stuff. My first question for you is basically so that the fans can get to know you more and outside of your writing and your own stories. On New Comic Book Day, what three top books are you most excited to read when they drop? It could be DC, Marvel, Indie. What's your first three? I don't want you to throw anybody under the bus. I asked Alex the same question, but what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean that. Well, okay, it quickly becomes political. Um,
He said the same thing.
yeah. I mean, I guess right now, I think the last book I read um was we've been catching up on Batgirl, Tate Bromble's like Batgirl, which I've been really enjoying.
Yeah.
Um, it's coming to an end, but Batman and Robin as well. Uh, Philip Kennedy Johnson's run on that has been fantastic. Um, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely camping myself like out um in the bat in Gotham, aren't I? But I mean, there's new Daredevil about to start. Stephanie
Yep.
Phillips and
Yeah.
Lee Garbett, and I was lucky enough to get an advance look at that, so I'll be there for that on
There
release
we
day
go.
too.
We will
No?
as well. We will as well.
Oh, absolutely. So for me, going into the more of a personal, you said something earlier regarding like the when you were first building stories, you were just kind of like writing things down to find out the structure of a story that you wanted to build. So as far as that's concerned, when you laid out those plans and you took them to whoever you took them to kind of get some inspiration to find out exactly what's the format I need, how did you take that? Well, first of all, when you wrote the story, whatever it was it was it like fragments or was it an actual like concept of a story that you had that you written down, but then you kind of refined it later? Like because as of right now, I'm pretty sure it has changed dramatically since you first started. But it's almost like so. I write too. I'm a poet. So when I write, I pretty much write based off of like I write in fragments, and then I build on that from there. The concept of it all. But from when you first started, was it a full story and then you changed it, or what does that look like?
I like premise more than anything like that. with something like Limbo, probably we had the sort of idea of this amnesiac detective. We had certain things we wanted to explore, and we sort of had a rough idea of what the end of the mystery was. But sort of all of the sort of how you get from A to B to C to D was kind of figuring that out while going along, which is a way I definitely don't like to work anymore. It's kind of you still end up writing structurally, you just don't know how you're doing it. You have to sort of lean on instinct and precedent in terms of like you've seen enough storytelling, you've read enough storytelling that you know what feels satisfying, and you're having to kind of grope towards that in the dark rather than having a sort of smooth plan to get you there. It takes a lot longer as well. It takes a hell of a lot longer.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, it's like being a poet, right? Like I think um it's like super anything super short form. So like, you know, you get to do sort of 8 pages or whatever. Um I did, you know, a run of those in the back of Detective Comics, and I've done quite a few of them here and there.
Mhm.
Um those I always think of in terms of like, all right, well, you have such limited space for actual like language and to sort of juxtapose with words. I always think it's essentially it's like, okay, you're writing rather than writing a full story. You don't have time for, you know, an introduction and character work and denouement and like all of that sort of like nice stuff that you would like to put in a meaty story. So I think it's a similar thing of like you start with a nucleus, right? You start with like a core thing, and then everything you add to that should be.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Dan. Your pen right now is on fire, right?
Crazy.
Oh, thank
So
you very much.
I'm pretty sure a lot of companies are knocking at your door. Now, when it comes to the ongoing, well, not ongoing, but the miniseries right now, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder, right? Did they come to you with the idea of it, or did you pitch them one of the most iconic villains of fiction?
Yeah, no, I was asked to do it,
Mm.
which was very nice. It was the editor on the book at the time, on the Turtles book at the time, was Andy Curry, and he'd been the last editor on my Lucifer run at Vertigo, um, and he had sort of said to me he enjoyed doing that, and he wished we'd gotten to build something together at DC. So this was kind of our opportunity to do that. But that was very nice. Yeah, he sort of said, you know, I was the first person he thought of for doing a villain book. I've done quite a few villains at this point, so
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
carved out my niche.
But I think it's so great because I don't know how you've done it, but reading the Shredder book, yes, we all know how devious he is. We've seen him in the Shredder and Power Rangers book. Like we've seen him in so many different facets. And then to see you writing him, we know he's a villain and he's coming from this crazy place where he's lost everything, but he's still a villain. But at the same time, you're making me care for him and his story. Like I'm looking at him and I'm looking at his star pupil take over his organization. And I'm like, Shredder, dude, like, you know what I'm saying? Help, go get it. Go, I'm with you, Shredder. I'm riding with you. And like in the latest issue, when they're walking through the mountain, and the lady's like, he's not worried about me, and all of a sudden she's about to fall, and he's standing right there, showing that he has compassion. It's like, Shredder, listen, I'm TMNT all day, but in your book, I'm riding with you. So how did you get that facet to make it so much that like he is a villain, and we know he's a villain, but I still need you to rock with him in this story?
Yeah, I mean, I think with those, 'cause I've done, you know, I've done quite a few of them at this point. I did Lucifer, and I did Loki, and I did Destro for the Energon universe. Um, I just think I honestly think you don't have to sort of soften any edges to tell a story where these characters are the protagonists. I think there's sort of there can be a sort of feeling that you need to sort of make them more empathetic. But they're like, as long as you write them as actual people, they have like, every single person on planet Earth has a base level like
Yeah.
empathy, even if they don't act on it, even if they don't allow it to cut through. So it's just about kind of trying to tap into that a little bit. And it's also just fun to watch someone be a bit of a bastard.
Yeah.
Like so, that's I think Shredder's more human than like Loki, but like Loki was also fun to watch, just sort of
Yeah.
doing
And
horrible stuff.
that's true. You did the same thing with Azrael, with Sword of Azrael. Like
Mm.
that's people love that book. If you ever decide to pick up Azrael again, I'm sure we'll all flock to it. You do such a good job. So might be a little spoiler. Will we ever kind of see the TMNT Shredder and Casey Jones book kind of come together in a little event? Something coming up, a little spoiler.
I mean, I think those books are kind of like put to bed at this point. It was kind of a way to put the spotlight onto those characters outside the main TMNT book, I think. So I think when you see them all come back together, which I'm sure you will, but I think that'll be in
In the
TMNT.
TMNT. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
It makes a lot of sense. So, like, I reading Shredder though, I kind of see exactly where you were going, and it's funny because I mean, he's a product of his circumstances, right? Shredder, and I feel like you said, he's still a human. So he's still, of course, he's angry because he was whatever happened to the clan, his clan itself, or him during that whole process. It's like you still have to take in consideration that he's indeed a human with emotions, and he's just deal with his emotions in a totally different way. You know what I'm saying? For violence. So, but seeing him kind of interact in the beginning and coming back, it's like his intentions were clear. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to get back to the tradition of what he lost. And also he kind of looking at, what does that look like for himself coming out of that situation. So for me, it's like I actually what's weird is it kind of blue kind of touched on it is that now you actually do want to see the villain win. You've created a scenario where you're like, I do kind of want to see him like regain his status or regain the human or whatever type of like leadership or whatever it is that he had before. You kind of want to see him back at that place because he's at a low spot. So, but he also is like, you know what? I'm going to get back there. Though it doesn't matter how much pain I have to endure to get to that point. I'm willing to take on all the pain to get back to where I was, at least as a to find a goal or search whatever I'm searching for. I'm going to achieve that. So I liked that part of it instantly. The first book is that's what it's supposed to do. The first issue is supposed to really grab you and keep you along the way, and that's exactly what happened with me. Because I was like, yeah, I do kind of want to see him win.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I mean, I always think, you wanted to see like Bryan Cranston turn into like Heisenberg, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like in Breaking Bad, you want to see him become the king. Like you want to see Tony Montana become the king. Like
Yeah.
you want to see them like ascend. Uh, the rags to riches thing works both ways, you know.
That's
They don't need to be like nice guys for you to enjoy the journey.
yes.
Mm.
So just to switch gears a little bit, let's talk about another book that you're writing that the world is just so focused on. One of the most iconic DC characters of all time. Probably one of the most popular ones by far, Nightwing, definitely top 5. Now, this Nightwing run has been phenomenal, but how much creative control did you have within the Bat Fam continuity going into this series? Did they let you play in the sandbox, or did they like kind of like hold you down when it came to your writing?
I mean, it's definitely sort of the story that I pitched and the story that I came up with. It was definitely sort of they had a tone and sort of style in mind coming into the thing. But part of that was why they tapped me for it in the first place. Um, I was definitely conscious though I didn't want to like sort of overly reset things because Tom and Bruno's run had been so sort of I think like epochal really, had really sort of like reset what people expected from the book and expected from the character. And I was sort of quite aware that there'd been quite a few sort of hard resets with the book over the years. And so I was like, all right, well, we're coming in with issue 119. I want to try and pick up as many of the sort of threads and sort of yes and the previous run as much as possible, just because I remember when I used to pick up books with a creative team, when I was a kid and I wasn't paying attention to who was making them. I was just enjoying the character stories. And you sort of pick up issue 25 and all of a sudden it was just like jarringly different. And I kind of wanted to respect the fact that it was issue 119, so I wanted it to feel like our Nightwing run, but I wanted people who'd read 118 issues not to feel like the baby was getting thrown out with the bathwater. So yeah, we've done like sort of 3 volumes, and which I sort of in my head I'm sort of thinking of as a certain story in itself. It's the sort of circular story. But I will say we have issue 136 coming up in March, and Dexter Soy, who's been drawing the book so far, is moving on to another thing. So we've got Dennis Cowan joining us as artist, which I still can't quite believe he said yes to, because he's an absolute legend. But I definitely we were already wrapping up the sort of Cirque du Sin storyline, which was quite heightened, quite colorful. And so I was like, all right, here's where I want to kind of like shift this book to a different gear and tell a new storyline. So yeah, it's something like I think it sort of re-energized the book for me. It's made me very excited to sit down and write the book every month. It's going to be a lot more sort of crime focused. We've made some changes to Bloodhaven, as in the story. We've made some changes to Bloodhaven that lets us explore some different things in terms of like the American city. I'm I said I'm a Londoner. I live in the States now. I've been here for about a year and a half at this point. And sort of having the opportunity to see different American cities and see them sort of from the outside. I'm like, oh, there's more to write about than just the kind of city that Gotham is, which is, very New York, very Chicago. So writing Bloodhaven, I'm like, all right, I kind of want to write more about somewhere like Jersey City or Philly, or like somewhere that's a little more spread out and a little less European.
And when you talk about the current arc of Nightwing, boy, I read this arc and I'm like, where was Dan's head at when he decided to bring this guy? Because we had such a bright, hopeful Nightwing at a certain time, and then he went through the gang arc and then the M arc, and it's like now we're here with the Cirque du Sun, and it's like we're taking kids and he's trying to save the kids, and the guy is taking over the female, and it's like, and now he's in the Cirque, he's finally gotten in, and you see what he's doing with the kids, and you're like, this is dark. Like Dick Nightwing really has to pull himself. He has to show his hope, his light, really, to get through this by himself, because he's alone right now. He only has himself to fend for, on top of all his trauma dealing with the circus and everything that went on. So where was your head making this character and knowing how it would affect Dick Grayson in this arc?
Yeah, I think I mean, I love horror. It's kind of it's in my DNA. I think with like the Cirque du Sin and stuff, like I was sort of, there was a lot kind of going into the sort of plot, but it was definitely sort of the idea of the circus as having been this sort of premier form of entertainment, and how clearly and directly the comic book kind of took that cultural spot and just in like these very direct ways. And Dick Grayson is kind of the most, he's the paramount version of that, because when he's Robin, he was dressed in circus clothes. I mean, not that they weren't all dressed in circus clothes. That's part of what they took from the circus.
Yeah.
They're dressed like strongmen, circus strongmen. But Robin's origin was all in the circus. I just thought that was like a really interesting thing to dig down into a little bit. The idea that there might be some sort of spirit of the circus that kind of resented that the superhero had taken over, both sort of in and out of the DC universe, had taken place of the circus and kind of made it safe, had taken it from being something that was intrinsically the circus being something that was intrinsically kind of dangerous, and that was the fun of the circus was that you go see acrobats. Like, why is it interesting to watch acrobats? Because they might fall.
Yeah.
We've just had Alex Honnold climb a skyscraper, right, on Netflix, and everyone tuned in to watch it. And most people are tuning in not for his climbing acumen; they're tuning in because he might fall. So that spirit's still alive, but the superhero kind of shifts it into a safer space, right? Like, intrinsically, it is they are about saving people. Their spectacle is, rather than being about danger, it's about negating danger. I think that's where my head was at. If that makes any sense.
Nah, it definitely does. You can tell the horror, you hit it, because it's definitely horror themed. You can tell you're taking a lot of risk, but from what I'm seeing, a lot of fans are loving it. I'm loving it, and it's just a good time, man. It's a good time picking up the book every month.
I'm just thinking about what you just said about bringing Dennis Cowan in, and you just saying how it's going to turn to something a little bit more darker. I look at all the work that he's done in his past, and it's like he has this real dark and gritty, aggressive look to his art. So it makes sense why he would be introduced, and bringing him onto creative team to give you that kind of like shift in perspective and environment. It's a perfect pairing. So I'm excited to see what happens. I don't read a lot of that. However, I'll go ahead and it kind of makes me want to get back into, or at least get into more DC characters like Nightwing and kind of experience exactly what that looks like. But it makes sense as to why I love how the thing that I always loved about the creative teams, whenever I look at these comic books, is how they kind of pair up the people, whether it's the colorists, the writers, the artists. It seems like it's a perfect. There's a lot that has to go on, you know what I'm saying, mentally, to kind of build that team. And from one space where you took it, where you had this, like, I don't know what Blue was saying, there's a much more lighter hearted type of effect. And then you kind of like move into and shift. And now it's okay, well, how can we bring in a creative team to bring this mood to what I'm writing? So is that like something that you got kind of sit down and say, okay, this is who I would like to work with, because now in this part of the run, I would like to shift gears.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, chicken and egg, because you're not always when when you're working at something like this, you're not always totally in control of who might be drawing the thing. But also, you might want to work with someone, and you're like, I think it's part of the job of being a writer is to go, a comic book writer, is to go, okay, what story can I tell that will let this artist work to the best of their abilities? So that's definitely something that I'm try and be sort of hyper conscious of. Like, whenever I'm writing, it's always a huge part of the book. I don't like writing out, hopefully there's no editors of this, but I don't like writing too far out in advance of uh, an artist, which you can end up sort of 6 or 7 issues out, and you don't necessarily know or writing a whole thing before an artist is attached to a book, because then you're not writing towards someone, then you're just sort of writing into the void and hoping that they will pick up what you're laying down. But it's not don't think that's the best way to work. It's meant to be a sort of call and response, and you're meant to sort of play to each other's strengths, and it's part of the game, it's part of the fun,
I love
collaborating.
that. It makes sense though, because there needs to be synergy when you put out a product, especially something that is a comic. It's not a novel where we have to picture exactly what's going on in the scene. You're literally laying out panels based off of your whatever you're writing. You know what I'm saying? So now you need to the artists themselves, they need to be able to have that communication and that synergy with you in order to create that environment that you're writing without having all those intrigue, like you said, those intricate like little details like you would in a novel, because in a novel you have to write way more because you're setting a scene. Whereas in a comic book, it's a fragment. That little piece needs to speak volumes and that panel needs to be able to speak to that specific blurb. So it's interesting how I'm always interested in how writers communicate that, as far as like if they're able to choose their artists. But you kind of like already kind of given an example as to how you do have some type of influence as far as like who you want to work with, and that makes sense, because otherwise I feel like if you can't really complete one, you can't have a complete picture without both, or all the pieces, right? And it's like you can write all you want, especially with a comic book. You can write all you want, but if their artist is not going to be able to produce what you're writing, then it's going to be a lack of cohesion, and that communication is thrown completely off. I've read books where I'm just like, well, the panels don't make sense to what this person is writing, or just the opposite. Maybe the artist is phenomenal, and then the writing is like, well, this didn't communicate the panel well. But having
Yeah,
this,
I mean, there are so many sort of things like had I've definitely been sort of, I've seen sort of reviews or been messaged things that either like will praise me for things that the artist done or criticize me for things that the artist has done that I haven't, and it's happened vice versa. Do you know what I mean? Like it's happened to my artists as well, where it's hard. I think it's hard for anyone who's not on that email chain, who's not part of that thread,
yeah,
like making the book, to know exactly who's done what and where where the synchronicity kind of lies there. So having a team where it works really cleanly and you get each other, and it can just sort of smoothly happen, then you're kind of just in the same headspace. Then that is always like the absolute hope and the dream. And I've been lucky to found lots of teams where it's felt.
I do want to ask you, right? With Nightwing moving forward into a new direction and a new arc, are there any dynamics that you haven't explored yet that you would like to? Because he has so many great ties and relationships. The dynamic duo, him and Batman, or maybe him and one of the other Robins. A love interest. Who do you prefer, Starfire or Barbara? Will we see any dynamics moving forward that you haven't explored yet?
Yeah.
Hey, I think I
That's
hit
a
a
good
spot.
answer.
I
That's a
think I
good
hit
answer.
Uh,
something. I
That's a
think
good
I
no,
hit
answer.
no,
gold,
no.
y'all.
We've put out the solicits to 137 now, which is the second issue that Dennis is drawing. And so good. Like we haven't shown properly any of the interior art yet. It looks so good. We've got Norm Ratman inking it, Francesco Segura coloring it, and it just looks so good. But the issue 137, which is the second issue Dennis is drawing, the scissors are outside. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that that's very much like two-hander between Batman and Nightwing. Um, and it actually came directly from a conversation that I had with Scott Snyder a while back when we were just talking about the difference between them as detectives. I was like, okay, well let's set up a scenario where literally they're trying to solve the same crime from different ends and see how they approach it differently. So that's one. We've had like Batman sort of cropped up very briefly in the Circus Sin arc, but this is like getting definitely deeper into that. And there's a load of other dynamics that I'm hoping we'll get to explore. It's always, dependent on what's happening in other books and not wanting to step on other people's like toes. But I feel like Dick and Damien haven't hung out in a hot minute, so I think that's
Oh,
a,
okay.
a,
I like that,
That
man.
always gets
a
spicy.
dynamic I always really like.
Yeah,
That
that
always-
always gets into a spicy situation. One more question, right before we get off, or before Blue hits you with another Nightwing question. It's totally outside. Who do you prefer Nightwing with, Barbara or Starfire?
I mean, what are you doing to me, man? Like, this
Yeah,
is
you can't. That's a hot one. No.
the internet.
Yes, that's a war.
Whatever I say, they will scream at me.
All right, so we'll leave that one neutral. Me personally, I don't care if y'all yell at me. I'm saying Starfire all the way, man. I'm gonna say Starfire. Me personally, what do you think, Blue?
Oh, screw it. I'll get myself in a bit of trouble. I'll say I think there is plenty of great story to be mined from either. I do think it's more difficult to write a um a version of the character where he's dealing with street level crime, where he's in that sort of Batman realm, if he has this sort of near enough Superman level girlfriend, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that she like fits in
In
quite
that world,
as cleanly, yeah. Because there's always a little bit of like separation, which is artistic license between the Gotham and the wider sort of shinier Justice League world. In that, first off, there's no way Batman has time in the day to be doing all that stuff.
Never.
Um, but also, like the sort of, I think any of the reasons that we give for why Superman can't just like come to Gotham and just fix it, they're a bit. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they're again, it's artistic license. Like we want to be able to tell these stories. People want to be able to read these stories, so we allow that kind of distance to exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely. I've been a barber. I love Starfire hands down. I love their dynamic that they have. But when it comes to True and who he's gonna be with, like we just seen in Night Fight, I envision him ending his life with Barbara Gordon. It's just that dynamic. Just you can't beat that dynamic.
what about you, Galactus? Barbara or Starfire? Who you would like to see him?
I'm going to back out of this because I have no idea who you're talking about.
Oh my god.
Oh man, he done cop the fifth,
Man,
chat.
I can't. I'm not even going front because y'all already know. I am an independent and Marvel fan. I love independence, but I got something for y'all that y'all haven't read that I'm gonna ask Dan. So I'm gonna defer to Blue Jack.
All right. This is my last question on Nightwing. This is like a funny bit, right? I just want to know when you saw this panel like the rest of us, how did you feel? When you saw Bruce Wayne in the Nightwing suit in that panel, how did you feel? How did you feel?
I was just surprised the suit was that stretchy.
We all said the same. Yes. You're just like, Bruce, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, man? Where do we go from here? But anyway, I thought it was hilarious. I like that he just put it in just a one time, just a funny bit, which is
That
comics.
was great.
Sometimes they just need to be fun and you just need to enjoy stuff, man. That's so.
And once again, before we get off the topic, man, congratulations on everything you accomplished with Nightwing.
Yes, sir.
It's a huge achievement to write one of these legacy characters like that, even though you're not familiar with it because I mean you're familiar with it because wrote the big guy himself, Batman. So you know what I'm saying? So to get an opportunity to not only write Batman but Nightwing gotta be such an accomplishment. So congratulations on that.
It's nothing I take lightly. So thank you very much.
Did you grow up being a huge like Batman and Bat family?
Yeah. It was like I said, I was kind of that was sort of horror centric. I've always been drawn that way to anything sort of spooky. So when I did sort of discover superheroes as a concept, it was just the way I naturally. It was sort of it was Batman and the Crow and Spawn,
Mhm.
and that was the kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
you're drawing. I mean, you're writing Nightwing and Batman with Detective Comics. Like that is huge. I feel like if that's me, I'm going to bed every day just like ear to ear. Like I know it's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, just a kid in me would go crazy. And it shows in your work that you care, that you really are invested in these stories. You're invested in these characters. You know the lore. You know a lot about DC. It shows is very much present. So this new arc of the Detective Comics is I just started a month ago. One of my LCS guys like, yo, you're a Batman guy. Why are you not reading Detective Comics? So
It's
I
right. It's
jumped over to you.
what's
Huh?
the Dark Patterns.
Oh no,
Dark
yeah, Dark Patterns.
Patterns.
Yeah, Dark Patterns. Yeah, that
Yes.
was Dark Patterns. Yeah. Sorry, Dark Patterns. Yeah, crazy. That book is insane, man. And everybody's like, are we getting volume two? Are we getting volume two? So asking you, do we have a chance?
I mean, we'd love to do it. It's gonna come. The trade drops at the end of next month, and I think if that does very well, then it would be a conversation we can have with DC.
Oh, so y'all still get
Um,
an opportunity if the trades do well in pre-sales?
I mean, it's a thing of like it's you can always have a conversation. It's
Okay.
it's not
Mm.
um, but I know that the whole team would love to do more. Uh, would I think we definitely would think of it as a sequel rather than issue 13 onwards because it was very much a contained 12 issue sort of maxi. But I do know what the next one would be, and
Whew.
Hayden and I would definitely love to come back and
Mm.
Hey man, hey, I'm gonna get that trade just to support you because I want to see
thank
what
you
you
very
do
much.
next, man. I'm definitely gonna get that, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna take a picture of it, and I'm gonna tag you on Instagram. Let's go, Dan.
That's very
Got
kind.
Volume
Thank you.
two. So
Thank you.
Galactus,
It's one of my favorite books to have made. It's just getting to do 12 issues of it to begin with was a delight.
yeah, that's huge, man.
And
Batman.
I don't know if y'all know, Dark Patterns issue one dropped the same week Absolute Batman one dropped. And
It
that
It
did.
book,
was
yes.
I think it was 1 week later.
Okay.
But yeah, it was right. It was right on the tail of that.
Huge. And it still made volumes. It's crazy. That shows you how loved that book is. Like, I hope we get a volume two because it would be insane. I know everybody would rock with it.
All right, we got some indie topics now for you, Galactus. Let's get to it.
So before I go into the couple of books that I read of yours on the indie side, I'm kind of curious. We did a lot of DC talk here. How does the experience differ from one publisher to the next? Because you have done some work with like Image as well. So how does that experience like differ from one of the biggest like publishers, you know what I'm saying, out there versus Marvel versus DC is always was a thing. But I mean now we kind of have to include Image in this as well. They're kind of like a third power. But how does that experience like differ from one to the next?
Images in particular, like a totally different kettle of fish because you are in charge of everything. Like if you have the green light to do the book, you it is up to you whether that book sinks or swims. Which means that there's a lot more legwork involved, but you also do have control of the final product. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
you literally you are choosing what you are. It is up to you to figure out and get the logo done, to get the covers done. When you want variant covers, great. You find the artists, you get them on board, you get them in on time, and you can put them up.
Huh.
Um, so obviously not to say there isn't like sort of like a publishing plan and kind of stuff, and that they will not like ask you to do like this, that, or the other, and be like, hey, you should maybe think about variants and all of that kind of stuff. But it is like it is yours to screw up.
Oh.
So it's kind of like creator owned in a way. Like
It's fully
so
creator owned
fully current.
image, like
Oh,
like
I
image
love it.
image. You own everything, and that is like one of the absolute, like they take the same cut of Limbo that they take off The Walking Dead.
Mm.
Mm.
I love that because that now is going to now give me an idea as to the next books that I go into. You'll see exactly what I mean, and that kind of segues perfectly into it because I start off with just a blurb that you not so much a blurb but a small story that you did in like Super Creep Show. Which first of all, if y'all not on
Mhm.
Creep Show, y'all slipping. But Creature, we'll talk about Creature from the Black Lagoon because that's gonna be where I get the bulk of the information from you. But that Super Creep Show #1, and I think now they're doing another one, which is phenomenal. I love the fact that they're now going to start doing that more. So essentially, just to kind of give you guys give you guys an idea about Creep Show. Creep Show is an anthology book comic. So it has separate stories in there written by other artists, but they're all like random stories in the realms of creepiness. Super Creep Show, when it came out, actually featured stories about superheroes. So your story specifically, where the dude had got offed, he was unalived, and he came back to a future that was not supposed to be what he envisioned it to be. Well, what originally his super group was. That idea, where in the world did that idea come from?
Yeah, I think I like sort of I always like to sort of treat Superman as a bit of a like alien invasion concept.
Mhm.
You don't have to get too. And I think you can do that in ways that isn't necessarily like sort of ultra edgy. Because I think probably had we've had plenty of edgy Superman stories at this point. But when you're doing Creep Show, like Creep Show's an institution, do you know what I mean? It comes from Romero and Stephen King back in the 80s, and it's based on, or a tribute to DC Comics and Tales from the Crypt, all of that stuff that I adore. So yeah, when I was asked to do sort of Super Creep Show, I just kind of thought about, all right, well, if a character like Superman actually died, like what problems, unforeseen problems might the body actually cause when you have this sort of ultra powerful,
Yes.
undestroyable sort of corpse?
Hmm.
And like, okay, well, how does rigor mortis actually work? How like what kind of things actually happen? It's like, all right, well, he has like heat vision, right? But quite often the corpse's like eyelids will like open.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden he's just like unleashing heat
Yeah.
vision out into the world and they have to deal with that. Yeah, it was just one of those sort of if you're asked to sort of like character versus premise, like at the beginning of the conversation, like that was definitely a sort of premise first. All right, well, how does this body actually sort of rot and how
Uh,
might that end the world?
Yeah, it was beautifully done because it was something that I did. It was so unexpected because it was like they were saying, okay, well, this is why we need to keep him encapsulated in this specific type of material because we're not sure. We've never had this happen before of someone of such like power, like die. We need to make sure that #1, we're gonna give you the send off, but also we don't want you to come back because we don't know what that's gonna look like. And then all of a sudden. I was like, yo, what is this? So yeah, I'm telling y'all, please read Super Creep Show. I'm telling y'all, like it is, of course, it's made for horror people like myself, but it's also for superhero people that love superheroes. Y'all gonna see your superheroes in a totally different light. So read it. But let's see here. So moving into Creature. So you kind of like really answered some of my questions regarding the direction and like the creative licenses that you have. Because when I read Creature was unlike the rest of the monsters, being that Creature wasn't the focal of the book. He was kind of like a voyeur. He was kind of like an observer throughout the book. And to me, I kind of thought it was like this it was poetic because you think when you think about, and they've done this with some of the other ones like Frankenstein as well, where the monster is not the monster that's shown on the front of the book. The monster and Creature was someone else. It was a different person, and it was a somebody that just was a predator. And you know what I'm saying? He was a predator. So he was in actually, and they actually say that in the end, but who's the real monster here? You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, Creature is the creature from the Black Lagoon, and he of course he's in these swamps, and you know, he looks like a monster, but he actually was helping out the protagonist by at least protecting her. He didn't often do much. He was again a bystander, but he was still a protector in that space. So this was a different look at Creature from the Black Lagoon, because I think even in the movies he kind of was still kind of like the same, but we were kind of introduced again to a character that really, to me, had a little bit more emotion, and it was a little bit more like a different look at Creature. So tell me, what was the inspiration behind that? Was it always the inspiration to have Creature just be a voyeur and just looking at the madness going around?
It's more a little bit more the opposite. Just to clarify something, like I said, just to, like, myself and not throw anyone under the bus. Uh, like what I was saying before about Image, that's working for Image like Central. So that's like books like One Hand Six Fingers, right? Like Premises and mine. These books are Skybound titles, right? Like Brief Show and Creature of the Black Lagoon. So like that's a sort of division within Image. That's its own company. So like these books definitely do have like editors and they are in charge of covers, logos and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a slightly different thing. This is Robert Kirkman's like gig. And my editor on Creature was Alex Antone, who I did work with at DC, so I knew him well already. But yeah, so to answer your actual question, like, yeah, it was kind of the opposite in terms of, rather than thinking of the creature as a voyeur so much, it was kind of wanting to let the other characters sort of see what they wanted in the creature. So everyone's kind of chasing after the creature in the book, but they all see something different
Mm.
in him. They all kind of want, whether it's someone who wants to sort of return to this sort of primal state, or it's someone who's seeking this scientific advancement,
Mm-hmm.
and they see that sort of glory in the creature.
Mm.
Um, uh, like think the creature's it's an interesting conundrum to write in the first place, like as a monster, because compared to the other Universal monsters, there's Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy and the Invisible Man and all they've done all of those books too. Um, Creature is a lot more of a blank slate in himself, in that the creature kind of just wants to be left alone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Creature isn't trying to come out into the world and doesn't have a master plan, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need anything from us. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very much a sort of conundrum when it comes to write a book called The Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. So that was definitely that came out because Ram and I worked on that book together, Ram V,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked on that book together, and that was definitely like what we talked about a lot. Was okay, let creature kind of be this mirror, and the other characters kind of use him to doom themselves.
Mm. Yeah, and I can actually see that even from the protagonist's state, because she was searching for this so much, but she didn't see the other danger that was out there, that was present as well, trying to, like you said before, use the creature to gain some type of power or whatever it was, like you said before, because he was a soldier. And so you guys, just so you know, so he was looking for the creature to kind of give him. He knew that that was his way of actually becoming something more.
Yeah,
So he kind of,
he wanted to be the creature.
yeah, pretty much.
Well, before we let you go, right? We got a couple of universal questions that I ask all our guests. And heroes, lock in right now because this is the giveaway time. Now, we're going to ask you about a recommendation. Your recommendation could be anything, a book, a song, a movie. You're going to give our audience a recommendation for them to check out that, basically tells your story as well, something that you relate to. Now, heroes, this is how you enter the giveaway. Of course, you must be a subscriber, a follower, wherever you're at. Make sure you hit all them links in the description. Galactus, Photog, Blue Jack, myself, Voice of the Heroes, and Dan. Make sure you're following all of us. And we got multiple giveaways. We got a big one, a PS5 or a Nintendo Switch 2. We have an issue of Absolute Batman #5, first print, signed by Scott Snyder. And we have multiple other giveaways. Now, like I said, all you got to do is check out the recommendation Dan gives you. Come back in the comment section, leave a comment about that recommendation that lets us know that you checked it out. So don't put like, hey, I read it, it was cool. No, give us something, give us a line, anything, a panel, anything. So Dan, what would that recommendation be?
God. PT Psycho. There you go.
What
Say
DC Psycho you said?
MPD Psycho.
Oh,
It's
MPD
a
Psycho.
it's a sort of crime horror manga.
Hey man,
One of
check that
the
out.
one of the things in the DNA of Batman Dark Patterns.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. So he gave y'all a little clue there. So if you're into Batman Dark Patterns, you kind of get some inspiration from that title. So make sure you check that out. Leave a comment in the description. Now our universal questions. The first one will be your top 5 fictional characters of all time that could have had some type of inspiration on you when you was younger, ones that you might be looking forward to writing someday. Your favorite movie fictional characters, it could be Luke Skywalker or Indiana Jones, James Bond. Who are those top 5 fictional characters?
Generally anti listing like favorite as a concept, but we'll just go off the top of my head to not be spot. All right, characters. We'll go Michael Myers
Oh,
from Halloween. Batman's got to be in there. Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He's a good one. Ash from the Evil Dead.
Okay.
Ash.
oh,
I like
Ash is
Ash.
my
I like
guy,
Ash. I
man.
like Ash.
He's funny. That's my guy.
Uh, and what else? Leaves us one more. Uh, we'll say Hannibal Lecter.
Ah, the GOAT. I love. Hey, you know what's funny that you mentioned Ash, right? I seen the most ridiculous collab I've ever seen Evil Dead do with Archie, right? I
Yeah.
haven't picked it up. I don't even know if it's out yet, but I am dying to see what they do with Archie and Ash in a comic book. That's got to be too funny. Now the next question gets a little harder, right? Your Mount Rushmore of writers. Who would you put on that Mount Rushmore of writers all time? The
Uh,
goats of the goats.
Eisner, Moore, Miller.
I couldn't hear you. Cut out a
Frank
little bit.
Miller.
What do you?
Sorry, Miller, Frank Miller.
Frank
Oh,
Miller.
Frank Miller.
Uh, what? I need one more.
Yep.
I'll go Morrison.
Morrison.
That's all
Grant
bangers.
Morrison.
That's all
So,
bangers.
so,
Yeah.
so, what was the 4? Frank Miller, Grant Morrison, Who else he say?
You said Alan Moore. You said Alan Moore.
Yeah, Alan Moore and Will Eisner.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bang.
that's a fantastic list.
It
Hey,
is
Dan,
good.
thank you so much for coming on the show. This was an absolute banger, man. I had a phenomenal time, learned so much about you and your titles. Before we go, let us know where they can find you at on social media and what is next for Dan Waters. Any conventions, anything going on in the future? Any signings?
Oh, not that set up yet. Yeah, definitely got. I'm going to be trying to do as many cons this year as I can stateside because I'm here now, so I might as well.
Let's go.
Um,
How you like the
yeah,
States? I didn't even get to ask you that. How you like
yeah.
the
No,
States so far?
it's been lovely. I mean, I'm in New York, so
Oh, you in the
I'm from
hometown.
London. I'm in New York. It's not the biggest shift in terms of lifestyle. Um,
NYCC.
big cities. I'm a big city guy. Um, yeah, I'm at Dan PG Waters across most of the platforms. I also have a newsletter that I've been a bit sporadic with. Um, that's the Dead Air channel, which you can either find through my socials or just
Or you could go right in
search
the
for.
description below and click on those links. All links will
There
be
you go.
provided for you in the description. Just hit those links. Man, Dan, thank you so much again for coming on the show. You are a legend in the making, man. You're writing in the stars right now. So thank you once again. This platform is to give you your flowers for all the work you provided and all the stories you told us that, gave us hope and in such a dark time. So thank you for that, man. I hope more to come, man. More blessings your
Sure.
way. Congratulations on your success. Heroes,
Thanks so
don't
much.
forget, like, comment, and subscribe. This has been another episode of Voice of the Heroes Uncaped. So make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe because we got more on the way. And big shout out to our giveaway winner, my guy, Ruben. Your package will be shipped out. You did win a signed autograph of Jason Font, the Red Time Force Ranger. So that will be sent to you soon. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And as always, don't forget to love yourself, pass that love on and love others. And if nobody told you so, just know we love you. Voice of the Heroes, signing out.